Alright guys, welcome back. So let's continue where we left off last time. So we learned that we can import the Motionbuilder SDK by using this import statement. And a good place to start with this is actually just to experiment with what you have in the UI and see how you can automate things, since the reason why you are playing with Python inside Motionbuilder is probably because you want to automate things. So what I did was actually to take a look at what I have, for example, in the navigator. I know I have the scene here, and I know I have the key controls. I have the somewhere my player which disappeared. I love the layout sometimes. Let's just save this. Oh, okay. Anyway. But you have tons of things that you may want to... Actually, one of the things definitely that you want to play around with is the curves, the FCurves, because that's where probably a lot of your work is going to be happening by adjusting the curves, and probably is also something with the effectors and such. But let's start out simple and take a look at the scene here. So how do we get access to the scene? So what I suggest you do is to always create a variable with a reference to the scene, and the scene is found in the FB system. That's scene, like this. So executing this is going to give you access to the scene. So the scene, if you type in scene dot and then press Control space, it's going to give you a list of all the things that's inside the scene. So if you have, for example, components somewhere here. So the components is kind of like one of the base objects that you're going to work with. And I'm just going to check some papers here because I can't remember it exactly. So at the top of the hierarchy, one of the, I think it's one of the superclasses, is the FB plug. And then underneath that, you're going to have the component. So I'm just going to type this out. So you're going to have FB plug, and that's going to, then you're going to have the FB component. Component, and under that is going to have FB box, and then under that you're going to have the FB model. So the thing about the plug has properties, and the component usually also, that means that the component also have properties. An FB box is anything that can be seen, and I believe in the scene here. And then again, the FB model is whatever you can move around. So it's going to have like a position and a rotation and so on. And also the FB models are hierarchy. It does have a hierarchy. So you can have things underneath, models underneath models underneath models, and so on. But I believe everything in the scene consists actually of components. So that's just a little bit. I would keep this as a comment here, also just because, yeah, it's good reference to have, and I hope it's correct. So anyway, as you can see here, when we get the scene components, we get everything we have in the scene. So we could enumerate this list. So do a for in, and let's also assign this to a list. Oh, actually, let's just take it out here, just for now, and do print com.name, because every component has a name. So if we execute this, we have a ton of stuff in here. And a lot of this stuff you can't really see in the scene, because right now in the scene seems to be empty, but all this stuff here, I believe it's system stuff. Like I believe some of this is for example, the cameras and so on, and some undeleted stuff. I don't know, because I did a little test with this and I have a cube in here for some reason. So for example, if I drag in this cube here, we can see we get a cube in here, and if I rename this to my cube, we hopefully can see that this is going to show up now as my cube. So just ignore the other ones. I believe I didn't get them deleted correctly, or for some reason it stays in here. But that's one way of getting access to things. So that was actually one of the first things that I wanted to try out, just to figure out how can I interact with anything, just anything inside Motionbuilder, really. So that was kind of the first thing I did. Get a list of all scene. So another thing I did afterwards was to figure out what if I have several things. So normally I don't want to play with cubes because cubes are boring. So I'm gonna be loading up just some animation here, a scene. And again, I can run the script here to see what do I have. So I have a lot of stuff in here, like the iPie character and SK mannequin. I actually seem to have 2 characters in here. I actually knew that. And we have tons of stuff in here, as we can see. And these are all the bones and so on. So it's a cool way. Oh, we have the takes here as well. So the takes are also coming out as components in the scene here when we print this. So that's kind of, I didn't know that actually. Anyway, so what I did after that was to say, let's say I want to do some specific automation task on just one joint or one effector or something. Then I want to know, what do I have selected? So how do I get what is selected? So when you select something, it's usually, I believe, something that is a model. And it just happens that there's actually a function for this. So if you, there's also a nice little trick that you can do if you're up for it. You can type in FB and then control space, and that's going to give you everything for this, starting with FB, which all the Motionbuilder methods are prefixed with, I believe. So if you escape this and type get, you can see we have something called FB get selected models, and that sounds like exactly what we need. So a way to figure out how you call this is by just executing it and see what error you get. And I'm no C++ guy. I did have C++ in computer science 20 years ago, and I ended up making one of my teammates do all the programming because I couldn't, for the love of God, figure it out. I did not possess the C++ skill set at that point, so he did all the programming and I was cheering on him. But I know as much as this is saying it takes 1 parameter, it takes 2 parameters, 3, 4, and so on. So 1, 2, 3, 4 overrides is what this error says. So we can call it in 4 different ways. So actually one way of figuring out how we can call this is by going to the SDK. So go to the Motionbuilder SDK help here and just do a search for this. And it's not necessarily the first one you're going to find your best example, but in this case I actually found pretty good help in this. This is just an example, and when I clicked that I got into this subsection of the documentation where it says examples, where you have tons and tons of examples which can help you just figure things out. So just by clicking through them it's a quite a nice way of learning how to do things. Just by looking at the names you can figure out lots of this stuff here yourself. Oh, but that's not what I wanted. I wanted to see how do we call this. So we have an example down here. It says FB get selected models, and it says takes a model list, and then it display select list, something that's a function up here or method up here. Right. So we can see it takes an FB model list. It's supposed to be that, and then it returns whatever we have in that. So the way we should call this is by declare a variable first. Let's just call this models. Equals FB model list. And also, if you don't, you can also guess some of this stuff because it says get selected models. So that we know there's something called FB model. So if you just ignore the FB, it says model. And when you need to get this list here, you can just say, okay, it's going to be called FB in front. It's models we're interested in, and it's a list. So there you have it. Get FB model list. Anyway, so we need to supply this models variable. And so executing this is going to give us nothing. So now we can enumerate this list here. So say for model in models, print model dot long name, and here we have it. So that's going to give me the entire name here. So as you notice here, I used the long name here. If I just do this, it's going to give me this part here only. So using long name is going to give you also the namespace, and that's kind of convenient if you have, like I have two skeletons. So I have one in the SK mannequin character, and then I have an IPy character as well. So some of these names may collide with each other, so we have the namespace to sort that out. Okay, so that's how you get what you have selected. So in case you have several things selected, you can also get, you're going to get, oh, there we go. The right knee and the right ankle effector. So right now we're only looking at the name, as you can see here, so it's not that interesting. So if we instead print this, we can see this, what we get is actually an object. So that means that we can now start to work our way in through this, so we can get access to all the nice stuff that we want to have access to. So we probably want to have access eventually to the keys. So I'm gonna see if I can figure out how I got into that. This part was pretty confusing to me, to be honest. So I'm not entirely sure how to explain this. I'm just gonna get this back, this name here, to the long name. So the best way to do this is actually to add comment extra up here. So it says property here, and here we have well, the plug is what the property is inheriting from, as far as I understand, and then the component has properties, and properties was inheriting from FBplug as well. And then we have the box, which is what can be seen, and this is the worst ever documentation, but it's gonna have to do. And an FB model is something with a spatial representation. Okay. So things that has a spatial representation and means that it's usually what we want to modify. We want to modify the translation keys and maybe the rotation keys. At least that's what I was after. There's tons of things that we may want to access. For example, the frames and the layers and so on. But for now, let's just focus on the keys itself. So how do we get access to the keys? We can see we have translation and rotation. And translation and rotation and scale, they are properties. So if we print model.translation as well, then we can see we get the translation of the right knee effector and the right ankle effector as well. And why is my transport control? Controls? No, sorry. I hate when this happens. Hang on a sec. There we go. Okay. Jesus Christ. Okay. Let me just get my Python window back. I really need to get rid of that auto disappear thing. It's really annoying. So now I can't. Can I? Okay. Asset browser. Why is it here? Okay, it's screwed up completely. I'm so sorry. Let me just get this sorted out. I hate these windows. Okay, I need to go back to this, but I need to find my transport controls. That was really hard. God damn. And then I need to trick this UI into putting it back. Oh my god. I hate this part here. This is going to be okay for now. I want it to go all the way. I can't get it to do it now. But anyway, if we move this to another frame here and then execute it again, we see now the keys have changed. So they show the translation as shown for the current frame that we are at. That's the way it works. And right now we don't have any real animation on this, so it's kind of hard to see. Okay, but anyway, and if we select layer 1 and then execute this, it's still gonna give us, see, what do we have here? And let's for now delete this layer here and add a new empty layer. Okay, so anyway, it seems to be showing me, I just needed to test something, if it's showing me the keys for this current selected layer or the resulting, I don't know. Anyway, so we have the translation here, and the X, if we just select one of them for now, this one, so we have the right angle effector selected, and press F, select the X, and go to the base animation layer and press F on the keyboard. So we can now see that we have these key values here. So if you wanted to access these exact X, translation X key values, the way to do it is to dig into this translation here. So the translation, we should actually do one thing here. We should print the translation in order to see how this works. So again, we get a wall of text here, but one thing we get in here is get animation node, and that is actually the animation node contains the FCurves. So don't ask me how I figured that out. I just ended up figuring it out eventually. So get node like this. So we're going to assign that to a variable, and print the anim node like this. So that is also containing a ton of stuff here. So also one way of figuring out what we have and how it is working and so is to, yeah, I used the dir here. Can I use help, by the way? Yeah, you can print, actually, that I didn't know. What do you know? There's actually quite a lot of text though. Okay, so we actually have a clue here. We have something with FCurve here. So I believe we should have an FCurve under anim node. This is actually what I usually did in the beginning. So it actually, in this case, says none. And I believe that is because the anim node has is an object that contains several animation nodes. So actually, if it was me, I would have called this get animation nodes, because if I do for an, it's just node in node. Like this. I was going to say not iterable. Okay. Maybe like this. There we go. Okay, so it exposes a nodes. Sorry about the mess, but yeah, as I said, this is all new to me. So you're gonna get to see me fumble around. So now we have the X, Y, and Z nodes. So they represent these here. And once we have a node, that means that we can also get access to the FCurves. So under here we should be able to say FCurve equals node.FCurve like that. And an FCurve has keys, so again we can say for key in FCurve print key dot value, I believe it's called. Update is not iterable keys. FCurve dot keys, maybe. There we go. So now we have access to all the keys for the right angle effector. So hopefully these values should be something that we recognize. So we can see we have minus 14, and then we have minus 10. What the heck? Oh, that's for the Y. Or is it the C? Oh, seems to be 10, yeah. And then we have the X. So we should probably have added print statement in between here. So print model name, print node, print print node.name. So hopefully we should get the name here, so we get the C, and then we get all the keys, and we get the Y, and then we get all the keys, and we get the X and all the keys. So at this point here, enough playing around here. Let's add a comment and then end this video. Print selected models key translation keys. Right. So this is also a kind of a good snippet to keep at hand in case you're going to be trying to manipulate the FCurves, because it's hopefully showing how we can get access to them, and yeah, later on we can take a look at how we can manipulate them. So yeah, I think I'm going to end this video here, and be seeing you in the next. Bye bye.